Hello YouTube University students, and welcome back to Opa's Garage. Okay, so to give this video some context, about 4 months ago I bought a boat up in Michigan, and it was about 450 miles from my house. And as I was driving up to get that boat, I heard a noise coming from the truck, and I was almost there. I was probably like 20 miles from my destination, and it was kind of a loud squealing, screeching noise, and I pretty much knew right away what it was. And I went ahead, finished my trip, got up there, picked up the boat, headed back home, and probably about 50 miles south from where I picked up the boat, so I was still about 200 miles from home. That noise became more persistent, and my anti-lock brake light came on, indicating that I had an issue with my anti-lock brakes. But anyway, I made a stop, and knowing what that noise was, having had several of these Power Stroke Super Duties, the front wheel bearings are notorious for going bad on these, and so I knew that's what the noise was. But let's take a quick drive so you can hear what it is that noise sounds like, because when the wheel bearings go bad on these, they don't always make this noise, but I've had it happen several times where they do. So let's take a quick drive. Okay, so let's take the truck for a drive, and that way you guys can hear what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, so we're getting up to speed, and you can hear the noise that I'm talking about. It kind of comes and goes, but once it starts making the noise, it pretty much stays with it until you slow down. Once I get below 30 miles an hour, the noise kind of goes away. But so now I'm coming back into town. I'm surprised it stopped making the noise, because usually it doesn't stop making the. Once it starts being real consistent, there we go. Now, like I was saying earlier, as soon as I heard that noise, I knew exactly what it was. I had heard the noise before, and 4 months ago when I got back home, I immediately went to the auto parts store and bought a new hub assembly, but I have not changed out that hub assembly because I was waiting for the noise to come back. And like I was saying earlier, this happened 4 months ago. Now keep in mind that this truck is not a daily driver for me. I would say I've put maybe 1,500 to 2,000 miles on it since that happened. So what did I do to make it home with a squalling wheel bearing? And yes, it was squalling just like you heard just a little bit ago. I've got her on the lift. Let's get her in the air and let's take a look at what I did. Now, you probably couldn't tell in the video of the test drive where the noise was coming from, but being the driver, I could tell that it was definitely coming from the driver's side front. And when I was coming back from picking up the boat, I could tell it was coming from the driver's side front. And like I said, this happened 4 months ago, 12 to 1,500 miles ago. And I really did not expect it to work for this long. I expected within a couple weeks. In fact, I drove the truck back and forth to work for a couple weeks straight expecting the noise to come back so that I could make this video and then I could change out the part. But it has lasted quite a while, and I'm very impressed with it, considering that I've heard in the past where this does not work at all. But I can assure you that it does. So anyway, when I first heard the noise, the very first thing that I did was I stopped at a gas station hoping to find, you know, some kind of grease or some kind of something that I could use, and the only thing I could find with a nipple on it was this liquid wrench. But what I did, now I did not have to take the tire off of the truck when I did this. You can turn the tire and you can get to it, but what you're wanting to get to is right here where this hose comes down. Pull that hose off and there's a nipple right there. And that nipple is for your vacuum actuated four-wheel drive system. Now if you don't have the vacuum actuated four-wheel drive system, you're going to have a plug in there that, oh, where did I put that? It's going to look like that. It's going to have a square head like that, except for it's going to be much, much, much smaller. I would say that the square head is probably like a 5/16 or maybe a 3/8. More than likely, if you have a crescent wrench with you, you should be able to get it out with a crescent wrench. But this is something that you may want to go out and do this to your truck now, just as a preventative maintenance thing, because these wheel bearings assemblies are quite expensive. You can get them, the cheap ones, for, I don't know, a couple $100, but the lifetime warranted ones, which I will warn you, the lifetime warranted ones, a lot of times they will warranty it one time, even though they claim that it's a lifetime warranty. So you spend $400 on it thinking that you won't never have to buy another one, and then the next time it goes out, you take it back and they exchange it, and then if it ever goes out again, you take it back and they're like, nope, sorry, it's only one exchange. In most cases, that's been my experience. But at any rate, back to the video. So pull that hose off of there, and then the nipple comes out with a 7/16 socket or 7/16 wrench, fits right on there. If you don't have a 7/16 with you, if all you have is metric tools, an 11mm fits on there very, very tight, but it does fit on there. And then what you'll want to do, or what I did, was I took that nipple out, and since this was all I had, I stuck it down in there and I sprayed the liquid wrench down in there, filled the cavity up, put the nipple back in, and took off down the road. It squalled a little bit when I first took off down the road until the oil got in there and started penetrating the bearings, and then it kind of quieted down for maybe 10 or 12, 15 miles, and it started like just, and then so I pulled off to the side of the road again, put some more liquid grease in there, and I did that probably half a dozen times until I got to the next biggest town where I knew that I would be able to find like a Napa or an auto parts store, or, you know, a Walmart or something like that. Luck would have it that I found a Napa. When I went in there, I found this stuff. It's called multi-purpose synthetic grease, and it's not a very thick, heavy-duty grease. It's very thin. It seems like once it heats up, it would melt quite easy, and so that's why I picked that. And then I could take that out. I could put the end of the tube up against there and just pooge a bunch of grease. I'll just show you. Stick it right down in there and squeeze it. Get a bunch of that grease down in there until it's all topped off. I also happen to have an air compressor, a little tiny air compressor that you could, I think it actually runs off of a battery. Yeah, it's like a jump pack with an air compressor and a little flashlight built into it. But it also had a little nipple that would fit down in there, and so I hooked that all up, and I'd stuff the nipple down there. I'd kick the air compressor on and it'd pump that grease down in there a little bit. And then I would take some of the liquid wrench and I'd put it in there with the grease, and I'd take the air compressor and pump it down in there, and I'd take some more of the synthetic grease and I'd pooge it down in there, and I kept doing that until it would get full and it was like coming out everywhere. And then I would put the nipple back in and I took off down the road. Now the first time that I did that, it only lasted maybe 20 miles. And then I pulled off to the side of the road, repeated the process. And the second time that I did it, I think I made it close to 40, maybe 50 miles. Pulled off to the side of the road once it started. As soon as it started making any noise again, I pulled off the side of the road and I did it again. And I want to say that I did that probably 4 or 5 times on my way home during that 250 mile trip. But the last time that I did it, I just crossed into Indiana from the Indiana-Michigan line, and that's about an hour from home. So it was a good 50, maybe 60 miles or more. And I did it that one last time, and then I never heard the noise again. I got home. Like I said, I drove the truck back and forth to work for 2 weeks, and it never made the noise again. And so I would just randomly drive the truck, knowing that eventually it's going to do it, so I wasn't going to drive it very far. Like I said, 4 months later, probably at least 12 to 1,500 miles, and now it just started making the noise again. So that actually worked really, really good. And I think that you could probably put a grease zert down in there and actually take a grease gun and pump grease down into that. I'm going to try that after I get this bearing assembly replaced, because I don't trust that bearing assembly. Eventually it's going to fail. And when these bearing assemblies, hub assemblies fail, they don't always make that noise. I had one truck that never made any noise at all, but when you got out and you walked to the front of the truck and you looked at it, the wheel, instead of being straight up and down, the wheel was leaning quite heavily. And if I can find a picture of that, I will go ahead and post that picture in this video. But that was that's something that happened to me 5 or 6 years ago, so I don't know how much effort I'm going to put into trying to find that picture. But at any rate, this was something that got me home. Like I said, being 200 miles from home, pulling a boat, if I would have called a wrecker, I'm sure that they probably would have charged me, I would guess, $800, maybe $1,000, maybe even more than that. I mean, you're looking at a couple hundred miles, Super Duty truck, so you're going to need a flatbed so you can hook the boat onto the back. So yeah, you're looking at quite a bit of money, as opposed to, I mean, even if you didn't have any tools with you and you had to buy some cheap tools and had to buy all this other stuff, you're still you're not going to be $100 into it, and that'll at least get you home to where you can fix it. And this is not a permanent thing. Please don't think that oh well, if my truck starts making that noise, I'll just do this and I'll just keep putting grease to it. I don't recommend that. Maybe that would work, maybe it won't. I would not recommend it, because more than likely, about the time that you think that you're going to be just fine, you're going to take your truck on a 500-mile trip and it's going to fail and the bearing's going to start coming apart, and then you're going to be going, oh crap, I wish I would have went ahead and changed that bearing. The one other thing that I had thought about afterwards, that if I would have thought about it then, is buying some gear oil, 75 140. Since this is more of a liquid, you could probably use this and not use the grease, just use this stuff. If you don't have an air compressor, you don't have any way of forcing that grease down into that cavity. But at any rate, hopefully you'll get some use out of this video. Hopefully it never happens to you when you're far away from home. But if you do get some use out of this video, if it does help you somewhere down the road, you find it and it saves you from having to spend a bunch of money on a wrecker, please hit the like and subscribe. Please check out my other videos. I've got a lot of other videos on Super Duties and some other miscellaneous stuff. And until next time, keep living your best life and get on out in the garage and fix something. Or do some preventative maintenance so you don't have to fix it alongside the road.